Hello, friends. It's Nikki, and welcome back to my messy bookshelf. So, today I'm here to sort of share my thoughts on where I am so far in The Stand. So, I decided that I wanted to document my reaction to this book as we go along because it is taking me quite a while to read. And not because it is a massive book, but because I am setting it aside when I need to, because I am a novice to this type of book. I am not a big, I guess I'm a novice to horror, specifically body horror and, very gruesome stuff. I like supernatural horror, but this is a new sort of, you know, path that I am on with this kind of writing. And I am enjoying it, but I know that Stephen King is one of those authors that has a massive diehard following. So hopefully, no one gets offended with my thoughts. But I have thoughts. So I am going to do similar check-ins, similar to how I did with Moby Dick and The Count of Monte Cristo, and that way I can look back on my thoughts about this book. So I've made it to chapter 43, and that is book two. Book two just started, and I am enjoying it so far. I am enjoying it so far very much. I can see why people really love Stephen King. The writing so far has been great. I am setting it aside when I need to because there is some really gross stuff happening. And just in case you didn't realize, with me sharing my thoughts, there will be spoilers more than likely as I go through these check ins. So, chapter 43, and where we have been so far is that this virus has escaped from a testing facility, and it has spread very quickly, very quickly. And I really, really loved the different little vignettes that we had of the different characters and how it was spreading to different parts of the country. So that part was excellent, or those parts were excellent. And I also enjoy the way that it's jumping from character perspective to character perspective. Um, Now, I am setting it aside when we get to a really graphic, part. I will finish it and I'll say, okay, all right, it's time to read something else for the day, and I'll come back to it. But no, it has been excellent so far. And if I didn't mention already, I'm pretty sure I just mentioned this. This is my first Stephen King, so I was unfamiliar with his writing, unfamiliar with all of his works. But being that I am a huge fan of dystopian novels and post apocalyptic stories, I thought this would be the perfect gateway into Stephen King. So far, so good. Um, so we have met many characters. I don't know how he keeps track of them all, so that's pretty awesome the way that he is building on these characters. A lot of character development here. Um, but these characters have all experienced some sort of trauma with the way that this virus is spreading. And it has been fascinating to me to see all of these characters dealing with their own trauma in their own way and trying to figure out what to do. I would say the only part that I have really been thrown off with so far, and I guess it's two parts because it's happened twice. Um, One of the major players in this novel, the Dark Man, Randall Flagg, I he's wild. He is wild, and definitely not a fan, but he is an excellent villain. He is definitely an excellent villain. So I'm sort of apprehensive, but also looking forward to see where that goes because he's crazy. He is crazy. And now I'm wondering, because I did not know this prior to going into the novel, if there is some sort of supernatural element to him. So some of you that have read this are probably laughing at me right now, but I did not know if this book had a supernatural element. And it appears that people are dreaming about this guy. So very interesting, very intriguing. So loving the character development, loving the writing, Sometimes I'm getting a little squeamish because Stephen King definitely likes to go into detail about some of the nastiness that is happening to these people. So, um, another really impactful and, kind of sad but also fascinating section was, as we finally realized this thing is out of control and so many people have died, he went into a chapter where he just talked about people who died indirectly because of the pandemic. And, there was a child that fell into a well. There was um, someone else that thought people were coming to SA her. And yeah, like, human nature, Stephen King is doing a pretty great job of depicting human nature and just visceral reactions that people have in these horrible situations, and just the terror and the panic. So I can see why people are Stephen King fans, and I will probably read more Stephen King after this novel. But that is where we are so far. Now we have reached a point where the characters that have survived, so the survivors, are sort of branching out and trying to get the lay of the land, and they are all making moves to go somewhere. And I have to say, I also think Stephen King has a sense of humor, because there have been some things that are not funny, but they're kind of funny. Very inappropriate humor, and I can appreciate that sometimes. So I like how all of these characters are on the move, and I'm curious to see how this ends up, because I recently, I think a couple chapters ago, Randall Flagg, the Dark Man, has gone and collected the other crazy freaking guy, Lloyd, from the prison. And the chapters in the prison, those were ones that made me a little squeamish for sure. So it's good. It's really good. And I am going to continue. And I am not sure if other people's copies have the same illustrations that are in this edition, but there was. These pictures are. I really appreciate them being in here, but some of them are really nasty. Like, there is this photo right here of a corpse, and it's terrifying, horrifying. And I I laughed and I was pissed off that we have the Go Mets, because this is in the Central Park Zoo, if I'm not mistaken, that this corpse is laying, and it says Go Mets. And I was like, why did he have to bring the Mets into it? And then, in typical New York fashion, the graffiti says "Go to hell, Mets." So, typical New York. But yeah, these illustrations are wild. This story is wild. The character development is excellent. The pacing is great. I want to know what is happening to all of these people. And yeah, it's shaping up to be quite the experience. But yes, I am taking my time, because I started with the audiobook, and I had to abandon the audiobook because sometimes I can't pause it quickly enough. And I was cutting up some raw chicken and preparing dinner for my family, and there was a really gross description of something, and I was like, oh shit, I can't pause this audiobook right now because I have raw chicken on my hands. So I was like, no. So we're sticking with solely reading the physical book, and we're gonna stick with that. But yeah, those are my thoughts so far. Excellent so far. Very graphic. Some of you are probably laughing at me because it's not that graphic, but for me it is. And I'm very happy that I picked this up. An excellent gateway into Stephen King. So I will check in when I get further along in this book. But yeah, I would love to hear what you have to think about my thoughts. Um, But yeah, I am going to continue reading now, but I thank you so much if you made it to the end of this video, and I hope to see you in the next one. Take care.